Episode 21. Experiments Part 1. It seems that you are finally awake, boss, an unknown voice came from behind him, putting an emphasis on the word, boss. Moby got startled by the unknown voice and quickly went to grab his sword, finding out that it was not at his waist. When he noticed that the unknown voice was just Jaden, he calmed down. Only a little. She was sleeping right next to him on the bed. She might have taken advantage of me while I was unconscious. I don't want my first time to be with that whore. Moby thought in distress. What did you do to me? Did you have sex with me while I was asleep? He screamed at her. Of course not. I lost interest in you a while ago, she said, pretending to scoff at him. Moby breathed a sigh of relief at the good news. At her not raping him, but most of all, her not liking him anymore. It was a huge weight off his conscience. Due to their mind link, he knew she told the truth because he felt like she was angry at him. The mind link cannot tell him if she is lying or not. It only conveys her emotions. However, that could not be any farther from the truth. She was angry for a completely different reason. She had tried to force herself on him multiple times while he was still unconscious, but with no avail. Every time she attempted to try something on Moby, it was like an unknown force in her head stopped her from doing it. It was like the time she tried to attack him before, feeling like she was tied down by invisible chains. How long have I been out? He asked. About 2 hours, she replied. It was shorter than he expected. When he checked his HP, it was already full again. It seems like I only need 2 hours to naturally regenerate all my health, Moby thought, taking a mental note of his discovery. Moby looked around the room, noticing that all the damage the room sustained from the fight has already been fixed. How is the room already fixed from the fight? If someone told me this room was on the brink of collapse 2 hours ago, I would not believe it. Well, naturally a bumpkin like you wouldn't know. The entire house is embedded with a magic crystal that repairs any damage the house sustained in only an hour, she said while puffing her chest forward in pride. Moby ignored her mean comment, vowing to teach her a lesson in the future. How do you get magic crystals? Moby asked with eyes of interest. How should I know? My dad just installed them in my house for me, she said, scratching her head. Moby was banking on her high intelligence stat having more significance than raising just her power level, but it seems like he was wrong. Then a sudden realization popped into his head. Well, yeah, obviously. My family mansion is at least 20 times bigger than this small dump. My parents just bought this house for me to stay in while I attend military school. There is no way I would stay in that hell hole they call a dorm. Oh, and before you ask. Since my family is a big donor to the military, I have a choice to live in a dorm or not. Unlike you, she laughed while saying the last part. After that, many things went through Moby's head and not one of them was nice. He had never imagined someone could be so spoiled in his entire life. But then he realized the bright side of this. So, that means you must be spoiled rich, right? Ads by Pub Future. Ugh, hi, I wish. My parents only send $4,000 a week. They say stuff like I have to try living in moderation. It's bullshit. I had to beg them non-stop for a year to only end up in a low-end mansion like this with only a few servants. She said while pouting. Moby inwardly shuddered when she said that $4,000 a week was only enough for a modest life. That is more than he can make in 5 months of constant work. And, she has to do nothing at all to earn it, no work even necessary. Well, do you have any expensive decorations we could sell for money? Moby said, trying to find something positive in this predicament. The most expensive decoration in this house is only like $100. I don't waste my money on things like that. I just spend my money on clothing. Good. Then we are selling all your expensive clothing. He said cheerfully. No. I won't sell my clothes for anything in the world. She firmly replied. This bitch is so annoying, Moby thought, almost popping a blood vessel. His patience can only last so long before snapping. Well, I need some way of getting money. I found this hidden website that sells really good magical equipment. They are all really expensive, so I need money for that, he said, trying his best to stay calm. Well, it's not my problem that you are poor, she scoffed. You do understand that I have your life literally between my hands, right? He said with a large grin and a visually large vein pulsing on his head. Fine. I'll sell some of my old clothes and some clothes that I don't like, and I'll give you half of my weekly allowance. Is that enough? My only condition is that you must use some of that money to buy me some equipment from that website of yours every now and then, she said reluctantly. This was the first good news he heard in a long time. Now he had a steady $2,000 a week for doing absolutely nothing. In less than a month, he would have enough money to buy the basic demon gear. But, the more expensive gear was still way out of his income bracket. He still needed a way to get more money, but that is a problem for his future self to figure out, and now is not the time to worry. Thank you so much. I promise to make your investment worthwhile, he said, trying to act nice to keep her on his good side. It better be worthwhile. She scoffed. Can't she even pretend to act nice just for once? I need some way to keep her under control, he inwardly sighed. The time was already 7 o'clock, so he still had 5 hours before curfew. Moby decided to do a few experiments to pass the time. Have you tried using your doppelganger powers yet? No, not yet, I still don't know how to properly do it. So, I waited for you to wake up to ask you how. So, how do you do it? She looked at him with eyes of anticipation. Moby did not know what to say. He had no knowledge about such things. Today was the first time he ever heard of doppelgangers. Moby could not show his distress on his face in order to not show weakness in front of her. Avelia, can you please tell me how to do it? He asked in a desperate tone. It's really simple actually. The only conditions are that you must have a vivid imagination, you must have met the person or animal you want to transform into, and the person or animal must not be too much stronger than the doppelganger. All you have to do is imagine what to turn into and control the demon energy in your body to shape your body into the transformation, Avelia explained. Well, damn, it looks like I have to teach her how to use demon energy, he said in an unhappy tone. I'm gonna teach you something new. You need to know this before learning how to transform, Moby said. Close your eyes. Why should I? Just trust me. She reluctantly closed her eyes like she was told. Okay, now, try focusing and visualizing your inner demon energy. My what? She asked in confusion. Just focus. You won't be able to do this without precise concentration, Moby said to shut her up. Ads by Pub Future. I know that she won't be able to do it so fast. It took me months to finally discover my demon energy, and I was considered a genius for doing so. I will have to waste my time training her every day. I just hope that it wow. I see something. Jaden screamed in excitement, interrupting Moby's thought process. Wait, what? What do you see? He jumped in surprise. I see 2 flows of energy in my body. One is purple and one is blue. Blue? He almost blurted out loud. It seems like she still has access to her ability on top of her demon powers. The other flow of energy must be her mana flow, Avelia explained. Wait, does that mean that I can learn an ability on top of my demon powers? He thought in surprise. Well, yes, naturally, why wouldn't you? She asked in confusion. That's overpowered. He inwardly cheered. Moby now felt so glad that he didn't take the basic ability orbs the military offered him. He would never forgive himself if he was stuck with a shitty ability for the rest of his life. Moby wanted to know what ability would best suit his demon powers, but he set aside those thoughts to focus on the task at hand. As he looked at the sudden burst of purple energy around Jaden, He couldn't help but be envious of how she learned what took him months to accomplish in only minutes. So much for a genius, he said, disappointed in himself. Hey! Don't be like that. Cheer up. She is now a demon, so it is obvious that she would be more in tune with her demon energy than when you were a human. It is a miracle for humans to use demon energy at all while it comes naturally to demons, Avelia said with a soothing voice. Moby mentally nodded to her, thanking her for cheering him up. Well, I guess I really am a genius then. He inwardly laughed, regaining his previous confidence. Moby now focused his attention back on helping Jaden use her doppelganger powers. Focus on the purple flow in your body and try to shape it into an animal or person you want to transform into. Let's start with a cat for now. Jaden nodded. She tried to imagine the black cat that she saw on her way to school this morning. Then, she formed her demon energy into that shape. Moby saw Jaden quickly shrink before starting to grow black hair all over her skin. The process looked a little disturbing, but Moby did not shudder at all. Things like that cannot scare him after all that he had experienced. Look! I'm a cat now, she said ecstatically. Congratulations! Moby said with a big smile. When she tried to move, she automatically fell over. She repeatedly tried to walk but failed miserably every time. Fuck! What the hell, she screamed in frustration. It seems like you are not used to your new body. You need to learn how to walk on 4 legs before being able to properly move. Moni said with a sigh. I guess I have to relearn how to walk, she said with a sad expression. Can you use your ability while transformed? Moby asked with curiosity. I don't know, let me check, she replied. Suddenly, a dark shadow emitted from the cat's body. It seems like it works, she said excitedly. That's broken. Moby blurted out in surprise. We have already reached 2nd place in the contest. You guys are insane. If you enjoy my novel, please vote to help me in the contest. Episode 22. Experiments Part 2. That is true, but a 30% debuff from the original is a pretty big debuff. Assuming that I copy someone with a power level of 3000, would only get a power level of 2100, she replied. Yes, but you would still have the use of your ability on top of the one you copied. So theoretically, your power level should be a bit higher than 70% of the original's power level. I believe in certain situations, you would be at an advantage while in others you would be at a disadvantage. It just depends on the type of opponent you face. So by 30% do you mean that all my powers and special abilities would be 30% weaker? You pretty much, just imagine it like a 30% debuff from an RPG. Seems easy enough to understand, she nodded. I'm assuming that the debuff is so high because you're a lesser doppelganger. When you evolve into a normal or even greater doppelganger, the debuff should be reduced, he explained. What kind of demon are you? She asked with curiosity. I'm a lesser demon, he replied. Seems pretty basic, she said while laughing. Moby ignored her laugh and asked Avelia if there are any other skills doppelgangers know. Avelia, is there anything else I should know about doppelgangers? The only other thing I can think of off the top of my head is that they have a small degree of mind reading. When transformed, they can read the surface thoughts of the people around them to better grasp how that person is supposed to act and how others perceive how he should act. This allows doppelgangers to almost perfectly assume another's life. The only downside is that if the person that the doppelganger reads their mind has prejudice towards them, they might have inconsistency in their behaviors that might raise a few red flags, she explained. Moby repeated what Avelia just told him to Jaden. So I have a basic mind-reading ability that reveals surface thoughts? She asked in surprise. Yeah, pretty much, he replied. Then why can't I read your mind now? Probably because you are a cat and I have no opinions on a cat, he said with a sigh. So, all I have to do is transform into someone you know and then I would be able to, right? As soon as she said that, her body started to transform again. She shed all her hair that just disintegrated in mid-air and grew human skin instead. She grew very tall, standing at a little taller than Moby. A student uniform appeared on her body out of nowhere which fit her perfectly. "How do I look?" she said with joy. "You look like Alex," he replied in shock. "I know that you two are roommates, so I thought this would be the perfect person." Moby was waiting to see if her nose would grow like Pinocchio, but it seems like she actually believes what she is saying. "So how does it work? Can you read my mind?" he asked, clenching his fists in anticipation. "Ha ha ha, it's telling me that you see Alex as a dubious manipulator who acts nice to pursue some ulterior motive," she said while laughing. "Seems pretty accurate," he inwardly nodded. "Try using his lightning ability." Jaden nodded as she conjured a huge bolt of lightning that destroyed one of the walls in her room. "Whoops, looks like I tried too hard," she said with an awkward laugh. Moby was dumbfounded at how strong that attack was. If she was holding back while still having a 30% debuff, then he can't imagine how strong Alex would be at his full power. At Moby's current strength, he would be one shot without a doubt. Moby quickly regained his composure and asked, "Try using your shadow ability now." She nodded as she conjured 2 shadow daggers in each hand. "Now try using both abilities at the same time." Ads by Pub Future. She did as she was told and surrounded her shadow daggers by an electric aura. "Okay, stop, it seems like my hypothesis is correct. You are now able to wield 2 abilities at once, which is pretty broken." "Tell me something I don't know," she replied proudly. Oh. I have an idea. Let me try transforming into you," she said excitedly. In only a few seconds she had already assumed Moby's exact form with no way to visually distinguish each other. It was pretty amazing looking at himself, but at the same time really creepy. "Dang, it looks like you're packing big," she exclaimed while taking a peek at his legendary spear. "Stop that right now," he screamed in embarrassment. "Fine, I'll stop," she said with a giggle. 3 hours later. After a few more experiments, Moby figured out that their mind link can be used for telepathic communication from any distance, which is a huge asset. They also figured out that Jaden was limited to choose only different 5 transformations per day, which adds yet another limit to her power. Although with a slight delay, she would be able to effortlessly switch between the 5 transformations as many times as she wants. But, if she tries it to transform into someone other than them, the transformation would fail. Also, every time Jaden would change between her transformation, a portion of demon energy would be consumed. Her demon energy would also be slightly consumed every second during her transformed state, so she was not able to stay transformed forever. Furthermore, Jaden was able to effortlessly copy all of Moby's moves, and she even learned energy sense and nature stimulation into her own body because they were not race-specific skills like the rest of his skills. She was also able to modify nature's stimulation to restore both energy and mana instead of just energy. Jaden started to get the hang of walking on 4 legs, but she still messes up quite a lot. They also discovered that when Jaden tried to transform into any of the professors, it would always end in failure. It was most likely because they were too powerful for her to copy. The time they used was very efficient. They discovered many things in the process. But, all good things must come at a cost. The last 3 hours were the most frustrating and rage-inducing time Moby had ever felt. He had never met someone so annoying in his entire life. "I have to leave now before I get in trouble, the curfew is only in an hour. Can you give me a ride?" "Why should I? You have 2 working legs for a reason." "Because then I won't make it back in time, you bozo." "Fine. Let me call the butler," she said while running out of the room. When they reached the front door and Moby was walking away with the butler, she suddenly tugged on his shirt, signaling him to wait. "Since we will be working together from now on, I think that we should trade our contact info," she said while awkwardly rubbing her hands together. "Why should I?" We already have a telepathic link. It's better than any other way of contact, Moby said with a confused expression. Jaden's face instantly turned beet red. Never mind, she said as she smashed the door shut. Moby was just standing there in confusion, not knowing what just happened. He didn't have the chance to read her emotions, but from her face, he could assume she was angry at him for some reason. Then, the memory of Avelia telling him that he only had 1 week to tame her or else there is a high chance she would betray him played again in his mind. I need to find a way to keep her under control or else I'll be dead, Moby said with sweat running down his face. Moby entered the limousine and the butler drove him towards the school. Since this was the first time he was alone with peace and quiet ever since he got his new stat points, Moby can now finally assign them. He had a total of 85 points to distribute. After careful consideration, Moby decided to assign 30 points in strength, 30 points in intelligence, adds by Pub Future, 12 points in mind, 13 points in endurance. His new stats are now: Stats. Name, Moby Kane. Race, Lesser Demon. Level, 11. XP to next level 500/1200. Power level, 2720. HP, 120/120. Demon Energy, 55/55. Demon Energy Regeneration, 27 Demon Energy/hour. Strength, 83. Agility, 98. Endurance, 36. Intelligence, 55. Mind, 30. Available points to distribute, 0. Moby's current goal was to even out his stats because he believes that was his best way to distribute them. He also wanted to reach 30 points in mind to get the skill Avelia wanted him to learn. Moby noticed that as his intelligence stat went up, so did his maximum energy capacity. This was affixed to his low reserve of demon energy. So, Moby decided he should focus on getting his intelligence and endurance up so he can have more energy and not get killed with one hit. As soon as Moby finished distributing all his points, he got a system notification. /U003C System Alert. /U003E. /U003C due to the user having 30 points in the mind stat, a new skill has been learned. /U003E. Lesser Mind Control, Level 1. By staring at a target for 20 seconds, the user can control their actions for 5 seconds. The skill cannot be used on anyone with a higher power level than the user and cannot be used to inflict severe or fatal self-harm or harm on others. Activation time, 20 seconds. Duration, 5 seconds. Cost, 25 Demon Energy. Avelia, is this the skill you wanted me to learn? Moby asked. Yeah. Isn't it amazing? It was always my favorite skill to use. It may not be able to order someone to harm themselves, but it can make them do some really stupid shit. Whenever I got mad at people, I always used this skill to embarrass them. And no one can use this skill on me because I was the strongest demon. If you plan on humiliating that Nathan guy and his goons, this is the perfect move. Just imagine all the life-ruining shit you can make them do. As long as there is no severe self-harm, you can make them do anything. That's amazing, he exclaimed, jumping out his seat, startling the butler in the process. Moby had never heard Avelia sound so excited about anything she had ever spoken about. And, after hearing what Avelia said, Moby could not help but feel just as enthusiastic. Moby and Avelia spent the rest of the ride home discussing all the best and most embarrassing applications of this skill for maximum devastation on Nathan and his gang. If you enjoy my novel, please vote to help me in the contest. Episode 23. The Power of Mind Control. At times, he would even be rolling on the seats while clenching his stomach. In his eyes, Moby seemed like a crackhead that looked insanely high while at the same time having a huge sugar rush. The young miss should not associate with someone like him, he thought. After 30 minutes of driving, they finally reached the front gate of the school. Moby thanked the butler for driving him and headed back to his dorm. When he arrived, he noticed that both Alex and Ray were already fast asleep. He was hoping that would be the case because he wasn't in the mood to socialize and wanted to instantly go to sleep. He used up a lot of energy today and he needed to sleep in order to recover. As soon as he laid his head on his pillow, he slept like a baby for the rest of the night. 6 a.m. the next morning, Moby woke up fit as a fiddle. There was absolutely no lingering fatigue from his near-death experience he just had the day before. His roommates were still fast asleep, which was a good thing for him. He went outside to complete his daily quest before coming back to take a shower. Moby decided to put his 3 points he got from the daily quest into endurance, so he could be less of a glass cannon and increase his survivability a little more. His endurance was now at 39 points. The time was already 7:30, so he quickly left the dorm, making sure not to wake up his sleeping roommates. When he reached the front of the school, he found his target. It was one of Nathan's goons. It was the one with the healing ability that healed all his broken bones only for Nathan to break them again. Currently, Moby's power level of 2,750 was higher than Nathan himself, who was only at a power level of 2,510. So he knows that his new skill would also work on his whole gang, who were all much weaker than him. Moby contacted Jaden to inform her of what is about to happen. He wanted to build a better relationship with her in order for her to not betray him in the future. From the little time he knew her, he knows that she would find what he is about to do hilarious. Ads by Pub Future. Hey, Jaden. Where are you at now? Why are you calling me now? You better not waste my time, she answered in an annoyed tone. Just answer the damn question. He quickly replied. My butler just dropped me off at the front gate. Quickly. Come to the front of the school. There is something funny I need to show you. Moby said excitedly. Fine. But this better be worth my time. She said angrily. It will definitely be worth your time. He replied enthusiastically. 15 seconds had already gone by since he began casting it. I'm at the front of the school now. What's so funny and important that would make you waste my time like that, she said, sounding really annoyed. Just wait one more second, he said, trying to contain his laughter. Suddenly, one of the students in the crowd ripped off his clothes, making him bare naked. He started shaking his prepubescent soldier in front of a huge crowd while running around farting and jumping like a maniac. He was doing funny and stupid faces the entire time, putting his hands in his nose, putting his tongue out, licking his face in a disgusting manner. We're only the tip of the iceberg. He ended his spectacle by squatting down into the fetal position as he began to shit on the floor. Only when the shit was halfway down, did he finally regain his senses. Huh? He said, looking around in confusion. It only took him a moment later to recognize his situation. His face turned completely red out of embarrassment. He was but naked without any way of wearing clothes because he already ripped them all. He instantly put his hands covering his nether regions as he ran away screaming and crying. Due to the unfinished poop still protruding from his anus, he left a trail of feces that followed from behind him. There was an entire crowd all around him spectating everything that just transpired. Half of them were looking at him in disgust like he was an escaped monkey from the zoo, while the other was filming him or laughing their ass off. Jaden was part of the latter. Ads by Pub Future. This was by far the funniest thing she had ever seen in her entire life. She was laughing so hard that she felt her stomach start to severely ache, but she did not even care. She had a hard time breathing as she started to severely hyperventilate. At times, her laughter would suddenly stop so she could catch her breath and try to calm down before erupting again not too long after from images popping back in her head from what just happened. This cycle repeated over and over for more than 5 minutes until she managed to finally regain her composure. Moby was not faring any better. He was laughing just as hard as Jaden, if not a little harder. He had no memory of himself laughing that hard in his entire life, even when he was torturing Eric, which is an impressive feat, to say the least. Avelia had a severe sense of nostalgia because she made people do these things in her past a myriad of times. He could even hear Avelia laugh in his head at least 3 times harder than him, like she was reliving the funniest moments of her entire life. The only thing he was disappointed in was that he didn't smear his feces all over his body like he wanted him to do, because the mind control ran out of time. However, what happened was still more than funny and embarrassing enough to satisfy him. This was more than enough to ruin someone's life and reputation for a lifetime. The only downside to this is he might kill himself before Moby gets to him. He still needed to properly pay him back for all that he did to him. Moby just had to hope that he would last at least until tomorrow so he can exact his plan. Suddenly, Jaden contacted him, interrupting his train of thought. "Ha ha 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 ha, was that you're doing?" she asked, unable to contain her immense laughter. "Yeah, that was me," he replied while chuckling, remembering the scene that just occurred. "That was the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life." "How did you do it?" she asked while laughing even harder. "Let's just say I got a mind control ability after I left your house yesterday," he replied with a smirk. "For real? You sure are creative," she said, starting to calm down a bit. "It took a lot of brainstorming," he answered with a small chuckle. "By the way, who is that guy? Why did you choose him of all people? Don't get me wrong, I don't give a shit about him and I appreciate the humor. But, I know that there must be a reason behind this," she asked with curiosity. "There is a reason. I didn't have the chance to tell you yesterday because we didn't have enough time. I'll explain everything to you at the break. We need to head to class right now, we only have 5 minutes left until it starts." "Sounds like fun. I'll meet up with you at break time then," she excitedly replied. "If you enjoy my novel, please vote to help me in the contest." Episode 24. Leo's Tournament Part 1. Thanks to Moby's enhanced hearing, he was able to pick up on every conversation in the room. Nearly every single student was talking about the crazy incident this morning. "Did you hear what happened this morning?" "Yeah. Some crazy guy stripped naked and took a shit in front of everyone while jumping around like a weirdo. Dang. I wish I were there in person. That's hilarious. At least you can watch the video on the web. It already has 1 million views even though it was only uploaded 5 minutes ago. Really, that's crazy." Moby could not help but feel proud of his accomplishment. He caused quite the spectacle. Suddenly, Professor Leo came into the room looking happier than usual. The entire class instantly went silent as soon as they noticed him enter the room. "Good morning, class. Yesterday, we learned the basics of martial arts and its importance. Today, we will be putting what we learned to practice. We will be heading to Fighting Arena B on the 1st floor." The entire class burst out into chatter. Some seemed really excited to finally start combat training. However, there was another completely different group that cursed the day they were born. They dug their faces in their desks sulking and groaning in despair. Moby's class was a mixed-gendered class consisting of both boys and girls. The class had a total of 32 students. 1 F rank, 14 E ranks, 16 D ranks, and 1 C rank. The divide between the strong and the weak was like the difference between night and day. While the strong students celebrated and got excited, the weak students got really depressed. After only 5 minutes of walking, the class had already reached Battle Arena B. The arena was a big dome-shaped room around the size of 2 football fields. It was light blue and white, which made it look really high-tech. There was a huge TV on the roof that most likely displayed the fights. The arena was surrounded by stands that spanned for what seemed like forever. The inside of the arena was a dome-like bubble that separated it from the stands. It was most likely a defensive magical force field that protected the people in the stands from the attacks going on inside. "This is bullshit. I can't use my ability. A student blurted, "You must cover your basics and fundamental movements before you start properly implementing them with your abilities. It's like trying to run before you crawl. If you try to use these new techniques with your abilities, it would be much harder to master. We need to build you from the ground up. Most of you, if not all of you, have no fighting experience. If you have any objections with my teaching methods, then take it up with me." Leo responded. The entire class went into silence. Although many students seemed really angry, no one dared talk back to Professor Leo. "Oh, and don't even try cheating. I am really good at catching underhanded tactics. If one of you dares break the rules, then he will be severely punished," he said in a serious tone. The gloomy faces of the low levels suddenly got a bit brighter. Only a little. Even if they were able to beat a high level, it would not end well for them after class ends. It is not worth it for them to anger the high levels. The only good thing about the use of no abilities for them is that they would get beat up far less than if the use of abilities were allowed. Ads by Pub Future. For the first class, I want to gauge each person's fighting abilities. So I will make this into a tournament. You will be paired with someone at random. Whoever wins the fight moves on to the next round. The loser will be eliminated. The last one standing wins. The winner will also get a reward from me. The tournament and prize got the students excited once again. At first, Moby wasn't planning on trying very hard in this class to avoid making more enemies. But now, he disregarded that idea. He had already made it on the bad side of nearly every male in the school, so what harm can a few more enemies do? Keeping a low profile does not have any merit if everyone in the school already knows who you are. If no abilities are allowed, then he might have a chance at victory. He really wanted to know what reward Leo had. Every student spread out evenly into the field and waited for the signal to start. Moby ended up paired with an E-rank student with a power level of 1217. He had spiky brown hair sticking out like a porcupine. He had small hazel eyes, small lips and a huge nose. The amount of hair product that was on his head was astonishing. Thanks to Moby's enhanced senses, he could clearly smell the gel like it was a scented candle. Moby could not help but think that the yellow bandana he wore on his head was used to cover up his receding hairline from the sheer amount of gel he used that ruined his hair. "So you must be Moby Kane, Jaden Griffith's little pet. And you must be. Who are you even? How dare you insult me? I am Layman Smith, also known as the Poison Viper," he said, trying to sound cool. "Who?" Moby responded in confusion. "I know you're just acting tough because you think you're safe with Jaden Griffith's protection. But since we are doing a friendly spar where accidents can happen, it wouldn't be my fault if I accidentally injured you. Right?" he said with a wide grin. "I mean, you can try, but without your ability, you stand no chance." Moby had already used his inspect skill to see who he was dealing with, and he was not impressed. Name, Layman Smith. Race, human. Ability, level 2 poison. Power level, 1670. HP, 100/100. Mana, 64/64. Strength, 32. Agility, 40. Endurance, 31. Ads by Pub Future. Intelligence, 64. Mind, 0. Even if Moby held back his power level to his normal 800, he would have no problem beating him if he didn't have the use of his abilities. Abilities cause a mutation in the body that makes a person's body much stronger and more durable than a normal human's, even if that person's ability is not to be stronger or more durable. The higher the level of the ability, the more their body gets strengthened. This is how people with non-defensive abilities are still able to survive attacks that would definitely kill a normal man. Such as, being flung through a wall. Layman has a level 2 ability, so his body and strength would be much higher than that of Moby, who was holding himself back to only a power level of 800. However, Moby was still confident in his ability to win. His extensive martial arts experience would be more than enough to bridge the gap in power. Even though most of Moby's training was with the sword, he is still a master at hand-to-hand combat. Moby and Layman both took a fighting stance, eager to start. Suddenly, a gunshot sounded, signaling the students to begin. Layman took the initiative, running blindly at Moby. Moby could clearly tell that he had no training and had no idea what he was doing. Although he was much faster than Moby, Moby was still able to really easily keep up with him due to his use of energy sense and enhanced senses. It made it feel like Layman was running in slow motion. Layman threw a right jab using the weight of his entire body behind it. Moby exploited that by ducking and grabbing hold of his hand before flipping him over using his own weight and momentum. He landed on the ground with an impressive thud. Moby kept hold of his hand and used it to help pin him in a chokehold. "Say you give up and I'll let you go," Moby said in a monotone manner. "You bitch!" he screamed while squirming around trying to break free. Moby didn't really care about this fight. He instantly knew that he would be able to win with no problem the second he saw Layman take his first step. He was just another ant he needed to stomp on his path to get his goals. Even after 5 seconds of choking, he still would not yield. Moby got bored, so he decided to find out if his prediction about the bandana was accurate. "Now let's see what's behind that bandana of yours," he said with a wicked chuckle. Suddenly, he got a system notification. /U003C System Alert. /U003E. /U003C Poison has been detected in your body. /U003E. Thank you so much for your support. If you enjoy my novel, please vote to help me in the